Hello, today I would like to talk to us about doing book review. Do you like reading books? Do you like sharing about what you have read? Then you are good to go. Talk of doing what you love, and this is it. Your hobby rewarding you. Would you like to be a book reviewer? I will walk you through the official process. Then I will provide you with an official sample of a book that has been reviewed and how it has been reviewed. If you are a novice, or rather a beginner, should you decide to work online as a book reviewer, be ready to review your first book for free. So who can do a book review? A patient person who loves reading, a good listener, and listening is not limited to just the ear. Book review can also be done by a keen person. You must be keen to details. That way you are able to capture the errors. Another thing is be familiar with the language of the book. If you are not playful, don't go for children's book. That is just an example. So what is a book review? Book review is your opinion of a book in a summary form, and not necessarily a summary of the book. What you will need to be a book reviewer. 1. Some form of technology to capture your reviews in soft copy. 2. A book to review, obviously. 3. A conducive environment for working. Some people prefer not so quiet a place to concentrate, others a quiet place, whichever works for you. Step 1. Select a book. Remember, it's book review, so you want to begin by selecting a book. This applies to all book reviews, official book review or personal book review. You must have a book. In this lesson, we will be using the official book review examples, especially from the onlinebookclub.org site. Feel free to apply this in your personal book review or schoolwork. To do an official review, start by selecting a book, then check payment or agree on payment with your client. Read the instructions, terms and conditions, and any relevant guidelines carefully. Step 2. Are you comfortable? Only review books whose content you are comfortable with. To know the content, read the book description. Step 3. Noting down. Note down the page or location numbers of errors, typos, spellings. List about 10 errors for the review, but keep a list of all other errors because you will be asked to submit it later. Know what counts as an error. Know what counts as an error. For example, which English language has been used? Is it British or American? Also, in some cases, reported speech are not considered errors. Confirm with your site. or client. For example, someone may have said something in a bad way, but in the book, it has been captured that same way. So you don't need to correct that as long as they're in quotation marks. Other book review requirements: be original, avoid generic phrases and common phrases that can apply to any other book. Present a brief review summary. Children's book is usually 300 or 400 words, while other books are between 600 to 800 words. Your review summary should have at least 5 paragraphs. Your paragraphs are: 1. Summary. 2. Positive aspects. What was good about the book? Negative aspects, if there is. Otherwise, skip that paragraph and add any other paragraph. Then go to rating and then give us the recommended audience for the book. Book title should appear in italics at least once in the review body. Author's name in full but not italicized, and with suffixes. For example, Dr., Mr., Miss, at least once in the review. Credentials is not a must. For example, MBA, PhD, you don't need those ones in the review. Thereafter, you may use just the surname or given name as you mention the authors. For example, if you have already mentioned Ellen G. White, then you can go ahead and just say Mrs. Ellen or Mrs. White, whichever you have taken. Positive or negative aspects are also required, as you have said. Rating and justification of rating. So if you rate a book as awesome, amazing, worth, fair, give a reason for your rating. Then give the recommendation and errors. So in recommendation, who will the book most appeal to? Who should not read it if you think it should be audience specific? If you think the book should be specific to a certain audience, then you tell us. Do not say a book is for everyone. At the same time, do not say that the book is unsuitable for children in cases where the book will obviously not be taken as a children's book. Summarize the whole book. The summary should not have spoilers and must be less than half of the review. So you will do the review, and at the end of the day, you'll also do a summary. That is to say, a review is not, in most cases, a summary of the book. If, however, what you are reporting does not make sense, quote it as it is. Then separately explain the error if it is not self-explanatory by looking at the verbatim sentence. Know the time frame. Always seek to work within the time frame given. If you need more time, let your client know before the date he or she was expecting you to submit the work. If you are working online, ensure that you log into your book review site and update your status as appropriate. For example, extension request. You can also have your time automatically extended on an online platform by submitting an error report on the Update tab. Mark a book as read is our step 5. So when you have finished reading a book, tell your client or mark it as read. Let your client know that you have finished reading a book because that is what basically book review is. So you have to tell them when you have finished reading a book that you have finished. If you're online, you have to let your site know by updating that you have finished reading. If you are on an online book reviewer, first ensure that you have been updating the status since you picked the book, for example, by giving your error report. So when you picked a book to review, you needed to continuously do something before you go to the final part of you have read. So one of the things that you can do is updating your status by presenting an error report. So that way it keeps your client busy that you are working on the work. So you don't just keep quiet after picking the book and then you say read. Present error report and then later on update your status from currently reading to finished reading. The next thing that you will have to do is submitting your work. Submit your finished book review in the format agreed with your client. Do not say I have finished, then 7 days later you have still not submitted your work. So you need to say you have finished reading, and before 7 days elapses or even less, submit what you have finished reading. The next thing that will be required is to rate a book. If you are working online, you will be required to rate a book in the scale of 1 to 5. You should be honest in your rating. Remember, you rate the book according to the content, message, presentation, not the errors. When you are rating a book, do not use fractions to rate, e.g., 3 out of 5 stars. Do not use a separate heading or fragment for rating. Include rating as part of the review, in the text of the review as a full sentence. If the book you are rating was not professionally edited, such that you found many errors, do not give it a 5-star, even if it was amazing. This is because the editor will be part of the book, and if they have not done a good work, then you can't say it is amazing when it is not amazing. It was full of notable errors. Sometimes you may have some questions. For example, what if I dislike the book midway? Well, if you find that you dislike reading a certain book that you had begun reading, let your client know and give reasons as to why. If you are working online, do so in the review team page. If you found the book worst, very bad, fair, average, very good, amazing, say it just as such. 1 usually represents the worst book. So here we are. I promised that I will give us a sample of how to do a book review, so that I just don't tell you anything and then you end up not getting an example. So an example of a reviewed book by Online Book Club, and our book is called Legacy, the Ministry of Fire. So it begins by a paragraph. Remember, we said there are paragraphs. So this one begins by a paragraph. Ryan Oakes was having a beautiful life with his lovely family. Ryan was part of Saurian because his father was half Saurian, which means wingless dragon or earth dragon. One day, everything changed when Toramirez colony, Ryan's home, was attacked by dark dragons that destroyed everything and killed everything and everybody. Ryan miraculously survived, but with no memory of how this slaughter ended or how he moved to where he was next. 5 years later, Ryan had been living an awful life on the streets, alone, with no family or home. That suddenly changed when he showed his elemental powers in a fight. He then received a visit from the Ministry of Fire, which later became his home. They invited him there to learn how to be an elemental. He accepted the invitation and had some enjoyable days there where he met people he considered family. However, things didn't stay that way for long, as a horrible war was about to start between the Ministry of Fire and the Ministry of Water. You can find all the details of the story in that beautiful piece that Andrew Michael wrote, Legacy, the Ministry of Fire. Our second paragraph. I can honestly say that I loved every bit of this amazing novel. I can say it would make an excellent movie that could turn into a series of fantasy movies. The author could create a whole incredible world with many fascinating details. The character building was good in general, but I specifically fell in love with Ryan's character. He's a smart, funny boy who's been through a lot but still managed to find some reasons to continue his dream of being an elemental. I liked how he talked about his parents and how his sense of humor disappeared during the hard times in the streets after the slaughter, only to come back when he belonged to a family again. Our third paragraph. Our other paragraph starts by saying, there is absolutely nothing I disliked about this book. It's the first in a series, so out of curiosity, I can't wait to see what happens next. I guess that this means the writer succeeded in attracting a reader to the world he created. Another paragraph. Because I enjoyed this book and because I appreciate novels that occur in a fascinating world created by authors, I'm glad to rate this book 5 out of 5 stars. Our next paragraph says, I can recommend it to fantasy lovers and to people who are fond of adventures and magical worlds. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And that's the end of the review. So you notice I was putting paragraphs in bracket if you're following the writings. Obviously, you're not going to write those things. I was just using that as an illustration to know where our paragraphs are beginning. I hope you have enjoyed watching this video about book review and that you have learned a lot, not just so that you can make money as a book reviewer, but that you can excel in your education and also you can enjoy just reviewing. Have been your presenter Atieno Grace, and we have been doing book review. If you have any comment, put it down in the comment section. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, please like the video, and above all, recommend it to others by sharing the link.